I've dedicated over 35 years to the relentless study of the human mind and cosmic laws, and I'm about to share something that might challenge your beliefs. Regardless of your age, you can achieve any goal. Seriously, do you truly believe that simply because you've passed the 35, 45, or 55-year mark, your destiny is sealed? That if you haven't accumulated wealth by now, you never will? That if you haven't found true love, it will never come? Let me reveal a powerful truth. Your current situation isn't a consequence of your age, but of your daily vibration. By shifting your vibration, money, love, and success inevitably transform as well. I've discovered that everything vibrates. The chair you're sitting in vibrates, your body vibrates, your emotions vibrate. Even your bank account holds a frequency. Nothing remains static, as energy is incessant. If everything vibrates, it means we exist immersed in an ocean of frequencies. The crucial question is, what frequency are you tuned into daily? As Einstein stated, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. This isn't philosophy, it's pure physics. The problem is that many people unconsciously connect to low frequencies. How many times have you woken up with thoughts of debt, fear of losing your job, or frustration from loneliness? What happens next? Your day seems to conspire to confirm that state. It's no coincidence you're vibrating in fear, scarcity, and lack, and life mirrors that back to you. It might seem hard to believe, but think about how many Mondays you've started irritated just by remembering the job you hate. And without realizing it, you attracted more situations that reinforced that frustration. A more demanding boss, chaotic traffic, small problems that seemed gigantic. The initial frequency became the filter that shaped your perception. Have you experienced this? Now imagine the opposite. Imagine starting your day vibrating with gratitude, confidence, and enthusiasm. It's not naivete. Studies in positive psychology, like those by Martin Seligman, prove that individuals who cultivate positive emotions enjoy better health, stronger relationships, and better financial outcomes. It's not magic, it's vibration. Your inner world shapes your outer world. I've experienced this countless times. When I connected with the vision of creating a global company, I had no office, team, or capital, but I emanated the energy of someone already living that reality. I believed it before the facts materialized, and surprisingly, the right people started to appear. Opportunities aligned, and what seemed impossible became reality. You might think, what if I try to vibrate differently and nothing changes? That's the doubt that traps many. The secret lies in persistence. An isolated change in thought doesn't transform your life, just as a single trip to the gym doesn't transform your body. But by maintaining a new vibration, it becomes dominant, and the external world reorganizes accordingly. How many times have you nurtured negative thoughts about money, telling yourself you'll never achieve it, that it's too difficult, that you weren't born for it? How many times have you convinced yourself that love wasn't for you, that all the good people were already taken, that relationships mean suffering? Every belief is a frequency. As long as you remain in it, your life will be a reflection of that energy. If everything is vibration, and it is, your age, your past, the lack of opportunities don't define you. Your results are determined by the frequency you choose to maintain. And the good news is that just like changing stations on the radio, you can change your vibration. Stop and observe. What have you been focusing your attention on? What are your predominant feelings? This builds your reality. By daring to change this frequency, even slightly each day, you'll notice that life will also respond in a new harmony. I understand the feeling of helplessness. At 26, I earned only $4,000 a year and owed $6,000. It was as if every step forward took me 2 steps back. With no formal education, no business experience, and no relevant connections, I worked jobs that required only physical effort and felt constantly ill. I suffered from headaches, frequent colds, and persistent discouragement. I was trapped in a cycle of scarcity, and I believed it would be my eternal reality. Until one day, someone gave me the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I had no idea that those pages would be a watershed moment. Initially, it seemed like another self-help book, but as I read and applied what was written, I realized it wasn't about magic formulas or commercial tricks. It was about changing my vibration, my thinking, my self-image. I remember the first time I committed to this teaching. I read the book every day, repeating to myself that I would prosper. It was strange because nothing around me had changed. The debts remained, my health wasn't good, my past remained the same. But inwardly, something was shifting. I began to see myself as someone capable of attracting wealth, health, and opportunities. And then my external reality began to change. In less than a year, my income went from $4,000 to $175,000. I didn't change professions, I didn't go to college, I didn't receive an inheritance. The only factor that changed was my vibration. I shifted from the frequency of scarcity to that of prosperity. As a consequence, the right people appeared, business flowed, and doors that were once closed opened. How many times have you thought your life can't change because you don't have a degree, because you started late, or because you carry seemingly endless debts and responsibilities? I believed that. But when I understood that true power doesn't reside in the past, but in what I choose to vibrate in the present, everything changed. Looking back, I realize it wasn't luck or coincidence. It was a choice. I could have continued believing in my limited reality, but I chose to believe it was possible, even without external evidence. That decision altered the course of my life. If someone without education, health, money, and prospects could do it, why couldn't you? What truly holds you back? Is it the lack of resources, or the frequency you insist on maintaining? I know it can be uncomfortable, but like me, you can transform your life by modifying your inner vibration. My story isn't about luck or talent. It's about aligning with a new frequency and maintaining that choice until the external world aligns with you. And if it worked for me, it can work for you. Neville used to say, "You are limited only by the weakness of your attention and the poverty of your imagination." Upon hearing that, I sat in silence for a few minutes, reflecting. Because if we think about it, it's not the external circumstances that hinder us, but our inability to maintain focus on what we desire and our distorted way of using our imagination. How many times have you imagined the worst-case scenario? While awaiting a medical result, have you mentally created the worst possible news? Before an important meeting, have you rehearsed all the failures? You're using your imagination against yourself. Our mind is like a projector, and it doesn't differentiate between the real and the imagined. By feeding images of failure, rejection, illness, or scarcity, your body feels these emotions as if they were facts, and your vibration aligns with those patterns. It's no coincidence that after nurturing these thoughts, you attract exactly what you most feared. It's like asking life to confirm what you've already vibrated in your mind. Now think of the opposite. What if you used your imagination to create the perfect scenario? Visualize with clarity the house you want to live in, the work you love, the relationship you dream of. Imagine yourself feeling the joy of already living all of this. Science has proven that the brain doesn't distinguish a real event from a vividly imagined one. Neuroscience research shows that when visualizing an action in detail, the same brain areas are activated as if you were performing that action. By intensely and emotionally imagining your desired future, you train your mind and body to live that new reality. I started applying this daily. I not only read about prosperity, but I saw myself as a prosperous person. I closed my eyes and imagined myself entering sophisticated places, talking to successful people, making decisions that previously seemed impossible. At first it seemed like a game, a fantasy, but over time, my energy changed. I walked differently, spoke differently, behaved like someone who already lived that reality, and that attracted opportunities that were once distant. If you think you can't imagine something better, it's because you're trapped in images of scarcity and failure, forgetting your creative power. It's like an atrophied muscle, but like at the gym, you just need to train it to get it working again. Start small. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and visualize a simple scene. You receiving a call with good news, you entering the bank and seeing your full account, you being hugged by someone you love. Hold that image for a few minutes. Your mind might try to wander, but insist. This exercise will strengthen your attention and expand your imagination. I remember a time when my life seemed unstable. I didn't have clarity on how things would happen, but I dedicated myself to constantly visualizing what I wanted. One scene in particular is etched in my memory. I saw myself on a stage, teaching people, sharing what had transformed my life. At the time, I had no audience, no structure, nothing indicated that this would be possible. But years later, that imagined scene became a reality. I lived exactly what I had rehearsed in my mind. Imagination isn't an escape from reality. It's the tool that shapes your vibration and what you attract. Feeding yourself images of failure keeps you vibrating at that frequency. But daring to hold on to grand visions, even if they seem impossible, shifts your frequency and consequently, your results. How long will you let your imagination work against you? Isn't it time to change the game and consciously create the life you desire? You don't attract what you want. You attract what you vividly imagine and sustain with your attention. Many believe they don't prosper due to lack of education, opportunities, or a difficult world. But the real obstacle isn't any of that. What traps many isn't a lack of knowledge, but the paradigm they carry, a mental program installed in childhood that governs habits and decisions. It causes you to repeat the same patterns, even when you know better. Consider someone who studied for years, graduated from a top university, built a career in a major company, yet struggles to pay their mortgage or lives in fear of retirement. Do they lack knowledge? No. Knowledge doesn't translate into results when the paradigm remains in control. It's an invisible force, rooted in the subconscious, pulling you back to the same reality. This paradigm is formed in childhood. Everything you heard, observed, and felt was imprinted unfiltered onto your subconscious mind. If adults said, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to work yourself to death to earn more, or relationships always end in pain, those ideas were accepted as absolute truths. Even as an adult, you may have read books, taken courses, sought new perspectives, yet still find yourself repeating unwanted patterns. It's the paradigm operating silently. I clearly remember how this manifested in my life. Before understanding these principles, I was always broke. I worked hard, but never saw extra money. It wasn't a lack of effort. My mind was programmed to believe prosperity wasn't for me. I earned little, went into debt, and every opportunity was sabotaged by my inner vibration. Only when I grasped the concept of paradigm did I see the root of the problem. This happens to millions. They know what to do, but don't do it. They know they need to save, but keep spending. They want to exercise, but remain sedentary. They crave better relationships, but fall into the same destructive patterns. This conflict creates frustration. They have superior knowledge, but inferior results. Nothing is more painful than that contradiction. Research in behavioral psychology confirms this. Studies show that about 95% of what we do daily is governed by automatic habits requiring no conscious thought. Only 5% of your decisions are conscious choices. The rest is the paradigm operating in the background. No matter how much you want to change, if you don't reprogram these patterns, you'll continue following the old script. Reflect, how many times have you promised to do differently, only to find yourself stuck with the same result? How many times did you swear it would be the last time you'd fall into that financial, emotional, or professional trap, only to repeat it? This proves it's not a lack of willpower, but the invisible force of the paradigm controlling your steps. But there's power in this. If the paradigm was created by repetition, it can also be changed by repetition. By continuously exposing yourself to new thoughts, images, and beliefs, the subconscious mind begins to accept this new pattern. That's why change doesn't happen overnight. You need to persist, sustain a new vibration, until the old program loses its power. The point is, it's not the external world limiting you. It's not your age, current financial situation, or circumstances. It's the paradigm you carry within. By identifying it, you hold the key to change. You can consciously choose new ideas, images, habits, and reprogram the foundation of your mind. If you've wondered why, despite your efforts, your life seems to go in circles, you now have the answer. And the moment you decide to change that paradigm, everything around you begins to respond differently. One of the best pieces of advice I received came from a great mentor, Val van der Walle. He who tells the stories rules the world. At the time, I didn't fully grasp the depth of that statement, but over time I realized that each of our lives is a story we choose to write, consciously or unconsciously. The difference lies in who holds the pen, you or your paradigm. I remember a specific day in 1973. I was alone, sitting on the sofa of a small house on Maplewood Lane. I had nothing but an idea, but I decided to write, "I will build a company that will operate worldwide." At that moment, there was no office, team, or client. All I had was a thought written on a piece of paper. It was just a story I chose to tell myself. And here's the crucial point. When you write a story clearly and engage with it emotionally, the universe begins to organize itself according to your vibration. At that moment, I was already mentally living the reality of a global entrepreneur. I saw, felt, and believed it, even without external proof. And years later, I received a call from my partner, saying our company was present in every country in the world. That phrase I wrote alone on the sofa became reality. Now think about how many times you limit yourself to repeating stories you no longer want. Money isn't for me. Relationships only bring pain. Success is only for the lucky. Each time you reaffirm these phrases, you're writing chapters that keep your life exactly where it is. Have you noticed how people tell the same story for years? They always complain about the same difficulties, reinforce the same beliefs, repeat the same excuses. This isn't just talk, it's vibration. And consequently, their lives respond with more situations confirming the story they chose to tell. The turning point comes when you consciously decide to rewrite that narrative. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means choosing a bigger vision and sustaining it until it becomes real. When Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb, he didn't say, "I'm a failure." He said, "I found another way that doesn't work." He was choosing the story he would tell, and it was that story that illuminated the world. It's amazing how even the idols we admire were forged by the narratives they embraced. Oprah Winfrey, for example, could have remained trapped in the story of poverty and suffering from her childhood. However, she chose to build a new narrative for herself, a saga of overcoming, progress, and global influence. Observing her journey, we see proof that life isn't defined by origins, but by the story we choose to nurture. The most intriguing thing is realizing that you are simultaneously the author and the main character of your own life. If you persist in repeating the same negative narratives, your trajectory will continue without significant transformations. However, if you dare to write a new chapter, to believe in it before the evidence appears, you will notice that reality will begin to shape itself according to your vision. Therefore, I invite you to reflect. What story have you been repeating to yourself and others? Because whether you like it or not, it is precisely this narrative that is shaping your energy and consequently your results. And what if, instead of reinforcing limitations, you started composing a story of abundance, love, health, and purpose? Just as I did that night on a simple sofa, you too can decide today what the plot of the next chapters of your existence will be. How many times has someone looked at you and said, "You should be content with what you have"? I heard that countless times. And you know what? For a long time, I even tried to believe it was true. But the reality is that this idea is completely wrong. Dissatisfaction is not a flaw, it is not ingratitude. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. It's the natural impulse of life asking you to grow, expand, evolve. It's the inner energy-seeking expression. When you feel a genuine desire, it's not just a whim or a vague dream. It's the very essence of your life trying to manifest itself more fully. Desire is proof that there is, within you, a potential waiting to be revealed. And it's curious how people learn to fear this feeling. Many were taught from an early age to believe that wanting more is wrong, that seeking prosperity is a sign of selfishness, that aiming for a better relationship is a lack of gratitude for what they already have. But that couldn't be further from the truth. I myself lived this contradiction. For years I tried to convince myself that I should accept life as it was, restricted, full of debts and small frustrations. But every time I stifled the desire for something bigger, I felt an emptiness growing within me. It was as if I were denying my true essence. When I finally understood that this desire was not an enemy, but an ally, everything changed. I've realized that desire is the starting point of any transformation because it generates movement. The word desire comes from the Latin desiderare, meaning to give birth. Reflect on that. Desire is like an internal gestation, a seed that, if nurtured with attention and emotion, inevitably transforms into something tangible in the outside world. The problem is that most people abandon their desires before they even allow them to blossom. They observe their current circumstances, fail to see evidence that it's possible, and then bury that living seed in the soil of disbelief. Now, reflect with me. What's the desire you're afraid to admit, even to yourself? Perhaps it's the desire for financial independence, to leave a suffocating job, to rebuild a relationship, or to start a project you've always put off. Have you silently imagined yourself achieving this, only to quickly tell yourself it's not the right time, that you don't have the means, that it's too late? This is precisely where many people get lost. They confuse desire with impossibility, when, in fact, desire demonstrates that the possibility already exists on some level. I prefer to think of desire as a call from life. It's as if the universe whispers, "You can be more. You can have more. You can live more." And each time you ignore this call, life becomes smaller, more limited, more repetitive. But when you choose to honor your desires, you begin to grow. This doesn't mean everything will happen instantly, but it does mean your energy shifts immediately. And when your energy shifts, you begin to attract situations, people, and opportunities aligned with this new state. A friend once told me, "We're living a festive lifestyle, celebrating every day of the week." That deeply impacted me, because it wasn't about parties or gifts, but about living in a state of continuous celebration, driven by desires that were honored and transformed into reality. That's exactly what I wish for you, a life where your desires aren't suppressed, but cultivated until they blossom into real experiences. Therefore, don't blame yourself for wanting more. On the contrary, see it as a sign that life is asking to expand through you. Ask yourself right now, what do I truly want? Not what the world thinks you should want, not what others expect of you, but that which, just thinking about it, makes your heart race. Because that's the true calling, that's the desire that can completely transform your existence if you have the courage to sustain it. It's not your age, it's not your past, it's not external circumstances. It's the frequency you choose to maintain daily that shapes the money you attract, the relationships you build, and the level of success you achieve. And if you've decided to pay attention to this today, know that you've already begun to create a new reality. Now I want to invite you to continue this journey. The next video appearing on the screen will take you a step further in your evolution of wisdom, to become 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here with me, and I hope to see you in the next video.